The same guy. 1 missile launcher, 2 Iglas, 1 helicopter. Dead. And that is how you take out 2 longbows with 1 LSTR squad. Hey guys, still here, welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. It's been a while since I covered a regular 1v1, but you can still send in your replays through the link down below in the description. Just find your replay file and have a look and see if you have any good ones. If you do, send them in through the link down below. Today we're looking at Colonel Woo versus Captain Player 1, and Player 1 was the one who sent it in. We have an American deck, US General versus an Eastern Bloc General, and noteworthy here is that Player 1 does not start with a fob. This means that he's most likely not going to rely on artillery, and with that he is not going to be either using, or he doesn't have in his deck, a lot of longer range reach options. At any rate, this is going to prove to be an interesting experience. The Americans, well, they got their Atacams, they got their expensive artillery, mortars, patriots, you name it. They need a fob. Americans always wage war with fuel trucks running around after them, especially since the Abrams have, well, they're not mediocre for autonomy, but they're definitely not as good as some of the other vehicles. We have Colonel Woo over here starting out with a Vulcan, a Chinook, mortar, Cobra, another Vulcan. He has an M1A1 and an M2A2, M113s in good numbers, Humvees, Command for, I suppose, Hotel, the 2-pointer is easy to capture, and a Patriot. And I was very interested to see where this convoy is going to go. Is he going to go down, considering that he has an M1A1HA, or is he going to go to Bravo? If he's going to go to Bravo, how are you going to use an M1A1HA? Yes, it has some heavy armor. That's not necessarily what the HA stands for, as far as I know. But still, it's going to be interesting to see how this thing performs down here. He's going to be met over there by the OT-64Cs and their accompanying infantry, FLA, SFL 57-2s, Leica Pechota, and LSTR. And towards the middle, we got a couple of T-55s, Kampfschwimmer, bunch more motorized and some mechanized stuff in the form of a Moderna. The smoke screen is already coming up to allow the Moderna to take up a pretty favorable position here. That should not get hit by the light riflemen. They simply don't have that range, especially not with their base dragon. I think it's a terrible weapon. 35% accuracy, 10 AP, really. No thank you. Anyway, the Americans have dropped off. We got the riflemen and the M113s standing by to provide fire support. The M1A1HA, I'm not sure. Maybe it was standing here on this cliff overlooking and trying to see if the Rangers could spot a target for them in the form of a column coming up here. But there isn't any, so the M1A1HA doesn't have a target. Now, of course, you got some flank action here. We have Specialny at Notki, and Woo has sent a couple of defenders over there. This side is still fairly open for both sides, so the flank here can be used. MiG-29 913S operating on the far back. Not exactly sure what he's hoping to hunt down, but it's a fair bet to have an airplane out, considering that there are Americans around. And that means Nighthawks. Nighthawks, Thunderbolts, potentially. You really don't want to have all those expensive planes flying around without getting challenged. Now, here we can see the terrible light riflemen in action, as they're being chased by a couple of Pechota Smek and a bunch of transports. And remarkably, they hit a transport. Their accuracy is 51, 52, 53. It keeps going up the closer that these transports get. And note how Player 1 is rushing these transports in to deplete the light riflemen and potentially supporting Bradley of missiles. Because a TOW-2 against an SPW-80 means that it's not going to get used against the Moderna. Which is actually pretty far back and not really providing any useful support in the assault of the buildings over here. Whereas the M1HA is. It's providing a lot of suppressive fire on the Pechota, which are down to 7 guys. Now over here, we don't really see that much of an encounter yet. It's the riflemen and the M113s, which have reduced half in number, or they moved over there. A couple more guys coming in, and Player 1 is playing it defensively at the moment with just a bunch of LSTR. There's a T-72 M1 Wilk standing by. And for now, not really happening, not much happening on that flank. What I find interesting over here is that player 1 is playing almost exclusively without anti-air. We do, of course, have that MiG-913, which is flying around out in the back. But overall, aside from, if you want to call these anti-air units, yes, technically, but effectively not really. He does not have any anti-air, but he does have the LSTR. And those are, in essence, anti-air, but mostly anti-helicopter, because a plane is not likely to get that close to him. Now, the same cannot be said for Blue. Blue has a couple of Vulcans, which are far better than the 57-2s that Red has. But these things are more heavily armored, and, well, I'd say they're more useful in this role than a Vulcan is. A 163 CS, though, could be pretty lethal to any infantry. Anyway, he has Vulcans, he has the Patriot, which is standing by to deal any kind of damage against a plane that happens to be unlucky to draw its ire. And towards the Bravo sector, Blue 4 is trying to get control. Here comes the M1A1HA again under smoke cover, trying to get forward into a position where it can do some damage, but there's nothing that is being spotted. When I saw this situation, I thought, oh, this is not looking good for Red. Red has Echo, has Charlie, can capture Fox, maybe capture Golf, although this position is always pretty easy to guess where the CV is going to be. Blue can capture Alpha and has a very decent control over Bravo, or Boris, as seen from the Red perspective. Meaning that it's going to be most likely a win for Blue. I can see a flank defender being thrown up over there. Now we got a flank defender here. There's a Vulcan sitting over there, so anybody who tries to flank mutually will get destroyed. More SPW-80s coming in and Topazes on the other side. And we're finally seeing some action over here in Boris. SFL 57-2 dealing with some riflemen, but the M1IPs are not really interested in that. And immediately wipe those things out. 5 armor is not really going to be enough to stop an M61A1 shell. Or sorry, M68A1. A couple of transports rushing forward. I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe to hunt down more riflemen, but there are a lot of these guys. And I'm usually trying to use my transports as fire support, but he rushed them in. Maybe to see if there's anything there. MiG-29 912A coming in. That's the thermobaric. The Patriot turns on, and he responds by not necessarily hitting the target. It just missed it. And it's getting resupplied. Now, after it fired, he is most of the time moving it, but he's also managing this offensive, so yeah, there you go. It took him a few seconds to respond and get the Patriot to move. Still, at this point, player 1 knows that there is a Patriot operating somewhere in this area. More riflemen coming in, and there are a lot of machine guns around at this point, and LSTR. And whereas the riflemen are an okay type of infantry, I mean, they're pretty mediocre, the LSTR are elite. And they just cut through the light riflemen like they're not even there. And they don't stop there, generally. They also have the Vampire, which takes out any kind of armor pretty quick, especially that of an M113. So we have the bit of the transport wars over here, backed up by the Leka Pekota from range with the Tarasnice, dealing with all of these transports. And all of a sudden, the situation for Blue is not looking that good in Bravo. Towards the middle, we have the Moderna, which is dealing some damage with, well, both... no, not the autocannon just yet, it's not in range. But there is another offensive coming in. Topaz and the light riflemen are fresh out of their dragons, cannot do anything. A couple of Bradleys are being sent out to mow down the Pekota, but they don't have a tank on their side at this moment. They do have a Bradley, M2A2, so pretty dangerous with the TOW-2 missile. But the M1A1HA, I believe, has been destroyed. No, sorry, here it is. It was retasked all the way to the left turn flank. Left turn, yes, that's a word now. All the way to the left flank, where it's currently helping out deter the LSTR. Although, I'm not so sure if this is the right weapon system to deal with LSTR, because LSTR can overwhelm it. And it might have a lot of armor on the front, but these guys have 24 AP, and will go through you pretty quickly. So, Blue is sending his transports ahead to try and scout out and deal with the LSTRs, or at least force them to give up some of their anti-tank ammunition. The offensive here, Pekota have taken the building. They're now duking it out with the light riflemen. We got fire support from the Moderna against the light riflemen and from the Bradleys against the Pekota, so it's not really a decided battle as of yet. And the Moderna is not that eager to get too close to the Bradleys, because those TOW2s hurt a lot. That's 25 AP against a tank that has 21 frontal armor. So expect casualties, or at least damage, if you decide to engage in that fight. As for the rest, conquest points, we have player who is ticking points, but it shouldn't take too long for Woo to respond and bring in his own command vehicle. He still has Alpha to capture, he could put one in Bravo, there's still room. But then again, Red can also put a CV in Bravo, as he has a bit more ground where he could put a CV. For now though, he seems focused on getting rid of the forces of Blue in Gulf. This looks like it's going to be a bit of a draw. The Pikota are still under fire from the Bradleys, the light riflemen barely survived, and they might not be so lucky after all, because there is still a mortar around. T-72 M1 Wilk picked his head over the line over here and immediately got it shot off by a TOW2 missile from one of the Bradleys. And we got Woo resupplying the guys as quickly as possible. LSTR over here against a lot of riflemen. This might be a bit too much for them to chew off, so he's pulling them back into cover. And the Lekka Pikota might be able to support, at least with their machine gun. Not so much with their anti-tank weapon, I suppose you want to call that. Trasnice. Got mortar fire landing on the last known position of the LSTR, but these guys are so fast and they're not likely to get caught. The Rangers have finally been detected by the moving SPWs and are currently coming under fire, but Red doesn't have the firepower to deal with these guys, probably before they get reconcealed. Temporarily, they are detectable. They are moving, and if the T-55s would like to take a shot, now would be a good time, but nope, they're concealed again. So back to the left, we got the Motorschützen against the Riflemen. And the Riflemen are currently... What are you guys doing? Oh, I think you're taking shots at the LSTR, not so much as the Motorschützen here. Mortar landing right on top of them, taking another one of the Riflemen out. And over here we have yet another fight between what survives from the Light Riflemen and the Pikota, which again is coming under fire from a Bradley. The position over here, this ledge, is really making it very nice for Blue 4 to suppress anybody moving around in that town who does not wear an American flag. M101HA, I believe this is a different guy, but I'm not 100%. Taking a couple of shots at the T-72 M2 Wilk, which just made it into cover. And you can see that immediately this super heavy, sorry, no, not strictly super heavy, this heavy tank is getting smoked up. T-55 tried to take a shot at it and got rewarded with getting killed. So we're going to need something a bit bigger on Red 4's side to deal with this guy, because he's currently dominating the area between Gulf and Bravo. There's a Siegert aircraft coming in, trying to find what is now 2 Patriots. Of course, Woo is managing those properly, and they are disabled. Up until the point where the 22 makes its escape, at which point it promptly gets rewarded with a missile right to the tail. And the 913 is also at grave risk here and also dies to the Patriots. That's not a good day for Red. That's 2 aircraft down. And Blue 4 only has to resupply them, for which a new helmet's already on the way. Now there is a bit of... what is that, mortar fire? Yeah. This is the mortar from player 1. He's quick on the draw and tries to hit some of the Patriots, which I think he managed to get a little bit of damage on them. But the Patriots do survive. This is when I think Red could have really benefited from an MLRS. From Echo, it's not that far, so you get a bit less dispersion. And you could quite nicely do a lot of damage to this Patriot. Or potentially kill them both. Which would be a huge blow to Blue's anti-air. Blue has once again recovered. And not only put a CV in Alpha, but also mostly captured back Bravo. There is more Motorschützen, which are currently being forced out of the area by combined arms from Riflemen, Transports, and M1IPs. But Red is already making his way back. Motorschützen coming in, Transports, LSTR, more Motorschützen, and again LSTR more likely behind them. T-72 M1 Wilk providing fire support from range, but immediately duking it out with the M1A1HA, which is not a fight that the Wilk really is going to win. Trasnice from the Lekka Pikota trying to deal with transports as much as possible because they cannot get a line of sight on the tanks. And now it is just one big brawl of infantry. There's a lot going on. And blue seems to take this moment to also do an offensive in Gulf. Note how this area has been smoked up behind the Pichota, so that these guys are going to be taking fire from the Bradleys. The light rifleman tried to walk in but couldn't. And the Moderna is effectively incapacitated as it cannot look through the smoke and cannot provide support there. MiG-29 912 as a thermobaric weapon tries to drop, dodges 2 missiles from Patriots, dodges a missile from a Stinger, and the Patriots fire again, and this time they do get a hit but not a kill. Sadly, that was without the MiG actually dropping any ordnance. Seems to be a bit of a sudden death on both sides here. We got the light riflemen, or sorry, the riflemen, which are both almost dead. The Motorschützen almost dead as well. And blue is doubling up on his tanks and already bringing in more infantry. Sorry, more transports actually, because they're empty. And this is again important. Note how he sends in his transports first, and then come the tanks. Transports first, then the tanks. If you do it the other way around, your tanks are likely to take the first hit, which you might think is favorable because, well, it's a tank. Yeah, but you always want to try and make sure that the enemy wastes shots on your transports or wastes ATGMs on your transports like this. Motorschützen are trying to get rid of the transports, and then the M1A1HAs come in and start wrecking these guys. They're completely stunned, they're trying to deal some damage, but they're still targeting the transports, not the tanks. This is when you would ideally use LSTR. Now, the Atacams has also arrived from all the way back there, which I think is going to be a bit of minimum range, and it fires at the Moderna, which barely escapes, but fortunately for Red was not in that position when the Atacams actually hit. As for the rest, Gulf is still very much an area of contention, as the Pichota are, again, not really getting the fire support that they need. There's 2 Bradleys hammering them, there's Humvees suppressing them, there's more light riflemen, well, not that many more, moving into the building. Blue is definitely determined to hold on to this sector. T-72 M1 Wilk moving forward with LSTR and Motorschützen. And the M1A1s, without any transports or cover, are pulling back. But there's already a new wave of transports coming in. And look who else decided to show up. It's a Longbow. Fully ready. All 16 missiles at the ready. And most likely there to try and hunt down vehicles here on the right. And this is when Red finally brings in what I think is his first anti-air unit in the form of an OSA AKM. Sadly, it has the same range as the Apache. And, well, it's going to be a bit of who gets the first draw to see whether the OSA kills the Longbow or the Longbow kills the OSA. But sadly for the Longbow, that's not the only problem. There's LSTR over there. And the LSTR are concealed. I think they can see the OSA. Yep, OSA firing. Longbow gets hit by the LSTR, but not by the FLACOM. The FLACOM takes a Hellfire and dies. Another near miss from the LSTR. They fire back, killing the Schnetzka, which was over there. And because the LSTR are dangerous at range with their anti-air weapon, he lands the Apache. He just parks it there, which, amusingly, can be detected, but other than a mortar, cannot be shot at. And, take note, this helicopter might be landed, might be worried, but it's still a threat. If you think that you can just easily kill it with a Moderna, you are going to be in for a bit of a surprise, because that Longbow will shoot Hellfires even in a landed position. And this is a move that I have not seen quite yet. Smoking up a Longbow to keep it alive. I think it's a brilliant move from Woo Woo. It's a very expensive unit, 150 points. You want this thing to survive. So he gives it smoke cover, tells it to take off under the cover of smoke, but that does not fool the LSTR. And they take it out. And the Longbow dies. Painfully. So that, unfortunately for Blue 4, is an expensive attack that did not really pan out. I think he might also have been somewhat distracted over here. He did lose one of the M1A1HAs, and he does still have enough armor there to still make a push. There's 30 riflemen, there's transports, there's more M1IPs, but the loss of that HA and that that Apache probably hurt him. There's also Thunderbolt circling around, and Blue might know that the Moderna is out there without too much cover, considering that the Moderna just lost its OSA AKM friend. And I think one of the fighters, one of the 2, potentially 3 fighters, has been shot down. So you can see the Thunderbolt making a run for it, trying to get the Moderna, but just breaking line of sight with the Moderna. And instead taking out its anger on another Moderna or a T-55, depending on what it gets to spot first. Also dealing with one of the random transports that happens to be in its way, killing Motorschützen before they were able to disembark. Thunderbolt has 1 missile left. There's not a single bit of air-to-air response, so the Thunderbolt can just go basically wherever it pleases, and all it needs is a target. And what it finds is the Moderna, and it deals some damage to it, but not critical. Out of missiles, the Thunderbolt retreats. Back to Bravo. We got more Riflemen against 1 Motorschützen and about half a transport. The rest of the Motorschützen are pretty much out of friends, against a quad stack of Riflemen, a couple of tanks, a Chinook, a reconnaissance, I think that there was a Rangers that just decided to get back in their vehicle, and the M1A1HA is still out there. At this point, Blue also making a move into Gulf. Hello? Why did the camera do that? We have light riflemen there, more riflemen moving up, and the Moderna is sort of, I think, being teased to come out here again and play, at which point it will get met once again by the Thunderbolt. MiG-29 912 once again dropping thermobaric bombs on top of the rifleman, which gets stunned and burned. And the Patriots tried to kill it, but failed. Again, the Patriots are constantly moving around in this forest, but 1 MLRS hit could have killed it. I know it's easy to say after the fact, but this is where I think Red could have really benefited from a FOB and 1 Uragan or something to that effect. It would have made a lot of difference. Blue making a big push over here, but I'm going to keep it zoomed out because there's also a move on the right-hand side happening. And the Thunderbolt is back. It's been rearmed, and it's out for blood once more. The Moderna has been repaired. Somewhat, that is. The LVKVs were empty. So the Moderna is down to 7 hit points, which does put it at risk. Blue making a move in Bravo with 4 infantry squads, a lot of transports to absorb fire. And this is where another Moderna is making its presence. Anything that moves beyond this tree line, without the cover of the Abrams, is most likely to take a lot of fire. And he also still has the mortar, but it's running a little low. The Moderna still not taking the bait of all these infantry units and Bradleys. And there, the MiG-13 is trying to take it out. Sorry, MiG-29 913. No kill. Oh, you still got hit by a missile though from the Patriots. These things have already gotten some kills and are constantly working over Red Force Air Force to make sure that they don't cycle too quickly. More Bradleys coming forward, but without infantry cover they are in a bit of trouble. And their capability to spot is not that good. They only got medium optics, so now it's the Moderna's time to move forward and start taking these things out. The Moderna was spotted, and an ATACMS was already on the way. At this point, Blue can send in a CV to Bravo, because there's not a single red unit left. And with 17 minutes left on the clock, I think he has to, in order to start ticking some points. But it is in fact player 1 who is ticking points, because he brought in a command tank, T-72, into Gulf, so he now has a +1. The Moderna has been detected, wiped out the Bradleys, is taking missile fire from the riflemen and their terribly inaccurate weapon, and overall has to withdraw once again into the LVKV-813, which is already trying to resupply it. And I think it's also resupplying them. Yeah, it's resupplying the mortar as well. More infantry being spawned in by Red, and a bunch of LSTRs coming forward. The infantry has mostly left, leaving just a bunch of transports, and I think they saw them coming because the transports are suddenly packing up and leaving the area. At this point, another Longbow arrives on the right-hand side. Or is about to arrive. He really wants that Moderna dead. And I believe the Moderna has done a lot of damage, but I'm not sure if it warrants the response of essentially 2 Longbows and a Thunderbolt. Because I don't believe that this whole area would suddenly turn blue if that Moderna ceased to exist. Because he still has the T-55 there to support. He still has some other units. Yep, he's starting to wipe out some units as well, but as long as the Longbow wastes its missiles on the Topaz, and you You can see that he quickly decides not to. Turns off the Longbow's weapons briefly. Longbow is now, again, wasting its missiles on Topaz. Not even hitting them, actually. And these LSTR, which have some experience with killing longbows, are once again eager to get a shot at the longbow. A couple of riflemen, again, coming under mortar fire. This mortar has also done a lot of work, and this longbow is playing a very dangerous game. Already getting hit by the LSTR. Once again, immediately pulling back, trying to get out of range of the LSTR, and it is way faster than these guys can run to keep up. So seemingly this guy is for now safe. Macintosh in his M21HA is still alive, and he's now going to try and make a move. Again, I think this is where Blue makes quite a few mistakes, because he's operating essentially with little recon other than the Rangers and the Longbow. He suddenly tries to make an attack here with a Wild Weasel, maybe trying to bait out the anti-air and Gulf, and then the Thunderbolt can follow up and deal damage either to the Wilk there, or potentially to the Moderna if it's detected. Let's see what the Thunderbolt goes for. It goes for the Wilk. And it gets it. Not for free though, because there are a couple of LSTRs which are eager to take a shot at the Thunderbolt, at least trying to damage it, and kill it, in fact. That is the Thunderbolt dead. The Apache has been withdrawn, almost flying into power lines there, which would have been an interesting way to go if only that were modeled in Red Dragon. More infantry over on the left. Against the Motorschützen, the retreating LSTR, and a Moderna. The Moderna is going to be getting company from a couple of M1 IPs. Over here we also have a problem. That is, well, both sides have a problem, because neither party can really break through. The M113s are just getting needlessly murdered, but by firing, the Moderna is giving its position away. And this smokescreen, which has been thrown up by Red, is providing cover for the M1A1HA to close in, and the Nighthawk to drop a hell of a payload on the Moderna, almost killing it. And that squad that took down almost 2 Apaches, well, it's down to 1 guy. But the Moderna is still alive. It's down to 1 hit point, it's stunned. The M1A1 comes in, but the M1A1 makes a bit of a mistake, and I'm not sure why. Because look at this. The M1A1, not nearly dead. It decided to focus on the infantry, and the Moderna got it. It might have been down to 1 hit point, it might have been panicked as hell, but it did it. It killed off the M1A1HA. So, Red, 107 points, Blue, 100, sorry, 8, not 108, 8. He's 100 points ahead, 109. And he can still, I'd say, bring in a CV to Bravo, but he's just not doing it, at least not yet. Which means that Captain can just, oh sorry, Player 1 can just keep going. The Longbow comes in again, maybe smelling the sense of death on the Moderna, but there are more LSTR. Might not be the same squad, but they hit just as hard. But they missed the Moderna, oh sorry, they missed the Longbow. Mi-35 coming in, but an Eagle is moving to counter that, and it is the same guy. The same guy. 1 missile launcher, 2 Iglas, 1 helicopter. Dead. And that is how you take out 2 Longbows with 1 LSTR squad. This guy, 35 points, has killed 300 points in helicopters. Extremely expensive. Now, over on the right, we still have, well, what used to be the left, we have Blue Force attack, which seems to be going nowhere. The M1 IPs are still trying to suppress enemy infantry and killing off some transports, but overall, they're not really getting anywhere. Because Bravo has switched sides, I think 4, maybe 5 times at this point, and it's just not easy to capture. Chinook comes in, which is not necessarily a great idea with a whole bunch of LSTR around, but at this point, Red 4 wins because Blue 4 surrenders. I think Blue, while he had more kills, might have expended most of his expensive units, and thus decided to surrender. I'm not exactly sure if that's it. For all I know, his kid could have woken up. I mean, that's something that would happen to me. His kid could have woken up. There could have been some real-life emergency. I don't know, so I cannot judge that. But anyway, Player 1, Red 4, wins the match with a total victory. So, quite the match. quite a lot of opportunity to take Bravo and then lose Bravo and take Bravo again. And I think that both players did very well. I learned quite a few interesting things there with the smoke early on in the game, where the M1A1HA was hiding, and then trying to get an overlook position with support from Rangers. I think the Modernas did a lot of work. They survived, if only just. And they were, especially with their autocannons, very useful at suppressing enemy infantry. Overall, the Apaches, the Longbows, I think they could have been managed better. I'm not sure exactly what he was trying to pull off there, but I don't think he had enough support. Anyway, if you have another replay that you'd like me to show off, one of yours, send it in. Link down below in the description. If you like what I'm doing, then please consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, and even becoming a Patreon supporter, because you'd really help me out with that. Thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon for more videos.